Windows 11 and the future of Taters Incorporated. Hello, my name is Reyes Rodriguez. I previously spoke to you all at Taters Incorporated about using an alternative operating system to Windows 11 due to there being speculation and rumors of it being a subscription-based operating system. However, those rumors and speculations have been disproven by Microsoft themselves, and so Taters Incorporated has decided to be moving on to upgrading from Windows 10 to Windows 11. In this little presentation I have for you all at Taters Incorporated, we are going to be talking about how this upgrade process will be affecting our company, a timeline of events that will be taking place from the month of April all the way to the deadline of August 28th. And I will also be speaking to you about the importance of training and how if we don't take training seriously, how negatively it will affect our company. Upgrading to Windows 11. Our company has chosen, just like I said previously, to go on and upgrade to Windows 11. We've seen some of how Windows 11 operates, as well as Microsoft's own little change log of everything that's been changing. A few features to note. There's a new interface. According to Microsoft, is easier on the eyes, easier to use, refine the best elements of Windows 10 to create a smoother place to work and play. There has been also an integration of better seamlessly docking devices if you're trying to use a secondary display. Instead of resetting all your windows on the screen, it'll remember each individual window and where it was. It makes it very convenient instead of us having to spend time, organizing each window if you have a presentation or just if you work in a different way. Live captions as well, an accessibility option included in video calls and audio calls. This is really beneficial for us since we do use Microsoft Teams here at Taters Incorporated to get news about each individual department as well as getting in contact with IT support. Now, Microsoft has decided to increase the specifications and requirements for which and what devices can upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11. Many reports have been shown that not all Windows 10 devices are eligible for the Windows 11 upgrade. The new specifications for the Windows 11 upgrade are as follows: a processor of 1 GHz or faster, 4 GB of RAM, 64 GB of storage, UEFI and secure boot compatibility for system firmware, graphics cards with compatibility of DirectX 12 or higher, as well as a display of HD or 720p. Now, thankfully, our IT department has come up with a good list of what departments will have a very good transition from going from Windows 10 to Windows 11, and what departments need to either get their parts changed or completely get new systems for the company, such as the administrative office. All devices are good to go. Finance. All devices are good to go and perfectly eligible to go from Windows 10 to Windows 11. The sales department, the all-in-ones, do not have the appropriate processor to upgrade, so those will need to be replaced or upgraded as well as the laptops. The main processing facility, which is one of the biggest branches in Taters Incorporated, housing a decent chunk of employees, the devices are all out of date and need to be upgraded. Shipping and receiving the Toshibas need to be replaced and are out of date because they're single core. Otherwise, the workstations of Optiplex are perfectly fine. R&D, a department with about 5 employees, the 5 NV computers are fine, but the laptops need to be replaced as they are not compatible according to Microsoft's list of compatibility. Our facilities and maintenance, the 10 Optiplex are out of date due to core processing issues, as well as them just being really old. Yet the 10 Latitude laptops are perfectly compatible to go from Windows 10 to Windows 11, and thankfully all our IT department devices are perfectly good to go from Windows 10 to Windows 11, which gives us a great advantage due to it allowing our current IT department to learn more about Windows 11 as we'll see in the timeline that I've created for Taters Incorporated, and learn which apps are compatible. That way, we can have a really smooth transition, as well as them being able to teach different departments on Windows 11 and how it's different from Windows 10. With the help of our IT department here at Taters Incorporated, we decided to come up with a timeline of events that should take place before the deadline of August 28th. As we can see in the presentation, on the right hand side, we have a timeline of events of what should be taking place each month, all the way going up to the deadline. April and May have been dedicated for the IT department to get themselves comfortable with the new operating system and researching and seeing what other hardware compatibilities need to be addressed before we can upgrade certain departments to Windows 11, as well as doing some OS testing and seeing if our applications are fully functional with Windows 11. Now, a key aspect I really want to focus here on today's presentation is training and why it is very important. We have decided that the other 2 months of June and July will be dedicated fully to training all of the departments here at Taters Incorporated. The first month being used to train the administrative office, the shipping and receiving, the facilities and maintenance, and the main processing facility, which houses most of our employees at about 230 employees in that department. And as we saw on the last slide, they are the ones who need the upgrade the most. As saying, like, new devices to be able to transition fully from 10 to 11. In July, we are going to be finishing off the trainings for the remaining 3 departments of R&D, sales, and finance, as they are a lot smaller in employee count. And at the end of that month, we'll be able to slowly roll out the new upgrade for each individual department as we see how the departments are going with their trainings and if they're fully confident in moving from 10 to 11. And as stated on the document, the rollout process and everything should be finalized by August 28th. Many of you may be wondering, and what about the applications? Not to worry, as stated in the previous slide in our timeline, the IT department will be taking the month of May to see which applications are compatible with the move from 10 to 11 and which ones are not. Thankfully, Microsoft has its own app, Assure, which has helped over 800,000 applications work across Windows 7, Windows 8.1, Windows 10, and Windows 11. They will also be doing testing within a virtual machine mock-up of each department to see what applications work in a Windows 11 workstation. We will also be working closely with Microsoft with their whole app assurance request ticket that they have to help us transition apps that are struggling to go from 10 to 11, when it shouldn't be that many, since the upgrade from 10 to 11 isn't that breaking in terms of upgrades, such as some of the applications shown here of Teams, Google Chrome, Zoom, and Outlook already have a pretty smooth transition and don't need any modifications or anything to function fully. However, we will be offering trainings during the months of June and July to employees to see how if it's any different than Windows 10, as well as teaching them new things for the company with these applications as well. Now, throughout this presentation, you heard me throw the word training and why it's important, why we need to do training. But why is it important to be properly trained? And what are the bad effects of not being properly trained? Well, if our departments are properly trained, even though the differences between Windows 10 and 11 doesn't seem like a whole lot, it'll cause a domino effect for people who aren't comfortable with the transitions from going from one version to another. And within that domino effect, certain departments, or all departments, might submit a lot of tickets that they're overwhelmed, that they're stressed, that stuff's not working like it's supposed to. Then all that stress was then transferred over to our IT department, and then they get stressed, and then they get overwhelmed, and then there's a lot of frustration between all parties involved, which will cause the IT department, when it comes to fixing those issues, to make more mistakes since they feel pressured to fix it in a timely manner. Now, with that said, if that is kept without proper training, then there will be an increase in poor performance, less productivity, which in turn is less money, which we do not want here at Taters Incorporated, as it is vital for our business to survive, as well as making our stockholders very happy. It also will increase the possible turnover rate if we don't properly train, as employees will feel we are not professional enough to help them with the transition from going from one operating system to another. Training implementations and the schedule. So, as shown in the previous slide with the timeline, during the month of June, our IT department will be introducing and helping out the administrative office, which has 32 employees, the shipping and receiving, which has 42 employees, facilities and maintenance, 26, and the main processing facility, which has a whopping 260 employees. But not to worry, we've decided to with the help of the IT department, of course, to take these 2 weeks of June to help out the first 3 listed departments by dividing themselves into 2 groups of 3 and then 1 group of 2. The 1 group of 2 will take on the smaller division here at Taters Incorporated, while the other 2 will take on the semi-big ones. Now, since the Department of Main Processing Facility is so large, they want to take the last 2 weeks of June to fully get everyone comfortable and transitioning towards Windows 11. They'll make sure that everyone's caught up and making sure spoken to each individual employee and make sure they're all comfortable before issuing any sort of rollout or confirming on their checklist that they're good to go. And during our second phase of training in July, we'll be finishing off doing the smaller departments here at Taters Incorporated. The sales, which of 32 employees, finance 56, and the R&D, which is just 5 employees. They'll do something similar that they did for the month of June. They'll split themselves into 3 groups, 2 groups of 3, and 1 group of 2. The 2 groups of 3 will go and work with the sales and finance, as those are bigger departments, while the group of 2 will work with the R&D department, since it's only 5 employees. What are some methods that will be utilized to ensure that our employees are properly trained? Well, along with having our IT department go to each department and train them there, they will also give them a hands-on experience, so they not only are visually learning, but they're also learning with how to use it themselves. They will be given virtual machines to utilize with a mock-up of how their workstation will look in Windows 11, where applications are located, stuff like that. We will also, in our Microsoft Teams, have whole recordings that will be fully accessible of the trainings that they did for from the transition from Windows 10 to Windows 11. As we see in the pictures below, we'll have a tab similar to our administrative support tab, which will be just dedicated to questions about Windows 11, as well as the recording and an instructional document in case people find reading a lot easier. We will also include that in everyone's personal, as we see below with mine, or in a location that's called Files. We'll have that right there for people in case they want to read it or they're having difficulties in one area or don't exactly remember what the training was about. We will also be administering surveys after the end of everyone's training in the departments and see from a scale of 0 to 10 and how comfortable everyone feels, and we'll take the average of that department and determine if we need to spend a little bit more time training or if everyone's good to go, and we can mark them off on our checklist of departments that are good to go for the rollout. One of our biggest concerns with this whole transition process is the loss of productivity. Now, with the timeline that we've created with the help of our IT department, we have decided to divide each department to a specific group of IT workers. Since there's only about 8 workers, they decided to divide themselves within 2 groups of 3 and 1 group of 2. However, within those divides are even more divides. What I mean by this is, let's say a typical workday at Taters Incorporated is 8 hours, right? They will take the first 4 hours and teach one half of the department, and then they'll take the other 4 hours and teach the other half of the department. That way, they still have at least half of the department still working while they're getting trained, and vice versa. Obviously, I don't believe personally that it'll take up to 4 hours each workday for a whole week for everyone to feel comfortable transitioning from Windows 10 to 11, but that gives us a great safety net for our users to be all right, we can move and we are perfect for the rollout date. In conclusion, training is a highly important aspect here at Taters Incorporated and has been planned out for the coming deadline of August 28th. Training will be divided into 2 months, 1 month being the four big departments, and the other month of July being the three other departments. Our IT has decided to divide themselves to better suit and help out each individual department. They've also decided to mitigate loss of productivity of dividing the departments in half already, teaching one half in the morning for 4 hours, even though 4 hours will most likely not be used during the whole week. 4 hours each day, it's a little much, but it'll also guarantee that our employees are good to go as well. We will also be giving out our employees a survey after they've been taught visually and have been able to actually feel and use Windows 11 in a mock up in a virtual machine. In the survey, we will have them answer a couple questions as going as how do you feel about Windows 11? Are you comfortable with transitioning? Do you have any important questions? We'll then take the averages and answer all the questions provided and see if they're good to go and mark them off on our checklist. That way we know when the rollout day comes which departments we should prioritize as they're already ready. Um, we will also be working with our IT department in having them issue out these updates during after hours. That way that the next morning when they come in, they'll be able to use it and whatnot without having to affect also the productivity during work hours. It has been a pleasure to speak with you all. My name is Brayan Reyes Rodriguez. Here's some of the resources I use to find out information for Windows 11. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I'll leave my business cards down below, as well as be working with our IT department. Thank you so much for having me here, and have a good afternoon.